Hello and welcome to this third video in our ongoing countdown of the top 85 games for the BBC Micro. In this video we're going to be looking at Gambit, which comes in at number 83. Gambit was originally released by Acornsoft Games. It came on cassette with another game called Black Box. We won't be looking at Black Box in this particular video. But something that I discovered in putting together this video, which I didn't realize back in the 80s, is that Gambit, a game for 2 to 4 players, was actually developed and coded by the Oliver twins, who are perhaps most famous for the Dizzy series of games for the ZX Spectrum and later the Amstrad CPC. So yeah, this was one of their early games which the twins developed together. I think it was one of the first games actually that they wrote for the BBC Micro, and we're going to take a look at Gambit now. Right, so let's load it up. And there we go, Gambit, the familiar Acornsoft splash screen. Here are our instructions. There's quite a few pages of instructions, so I'm not going to read them all out. I will just explain the game as we go along. But basically this gives you your controls, and then there are several pages explaining the gameplay. Now it's quite a strategic game, so it does take a few steps to get used to how to play it and what the aim of the game actually is. So once we've gone past that, you can see the board is now starting to load. So this is in effect a board game, but it's an original board game. As far as I'm aware, I think this is something entirely of the invention of the Oliver twins. And you can see that the board is sort of slowly drawing across the screen there, and that's largely a result of the fact that this is a game coded directly in BBC Basic. So it's not going through the assembler, it's going through the basic interpreter, which does lead to a certain amount of slowdown in terms of rendering graphics. But once the board is up on the screen, there is not a lot more from a graphics point of view for the game to render. So all we have to do is decide how many people are going to play. Now this is a game designed for 2 to 4 human players. Unfortunately, there isn't a computer opponent option available. So just to highlight the full scope of the game, we're going to go with 4 players, and I'm going to control all 4 of them. So the aim of the game really is to get your coloured characters into the centre of the board, which you can currently see marked by that arrow cursor in the middle here. So if you're playing as the red character, who, as you can see, is going to go first, and that's signified by the compass points in the top right, which are currently shaded red. The idea is, first of all, you have a choice of placing a wall somewhere on the game board. Now you can see that there are several red walls already here, also blue, yellow and white for the other players. And the aim really here is to try and make things a little bit more difficult for your fellow players. So, here, for example, I might say, well, let's try and make it a bit more sneaky for this blue character here to get out. I'm going to place a wall here. So that limits his options once he comes out of his quadrant. So having placed the wall there, the dice start to roll, and then you hit the space bar to stop the first dice and then the second dice. So I've got 4 and 3. So as I said, I'm the red character at the moment, so I can only move him either 4 in the direction of the cursor, and then I have an option of either moving him again with the 3, or I could try moving a separate character. So I'm going to move this character down here 4 in that direction, and you have to move in the direction that you line the cursor up with, and then I think I'll just move him 3 this way as well. I could have used the 3 for the other red man up in the top, but I'm just going to stick with 1 for now. And now the game has switched to the white character. Again, you can see the compass up in the top right has switched to white. So now it's the white character's chance to cause havoc on the board. So he's going to put a wall here, try and stop the red one in his tracks. Roll the dice, and we got a 6 and a 2. So we can move the white character down here out by 6. Okay, and now I've got another 2, so I think what I'll do is release this other white character here. Okay, so he's out now. Now it is the turn of the yellow character, so he gets to place a wall somewhere. So let's really make it difficult for this white one here. Let's pop a yellow wall in his way. Okay, 4 and 2. So I've got a yellow character down here, so let's move him out. Now it's an exact game, so your game, the number of moves you can move from the dice roll, it has to be precisely the number on the dice. If you hit a wall before the number on the dice has been reached, your character will bounce backwards and move in the opposite direction in the number of the dice roll. So you have to be careful that you do actually have enough spaces to move, otherwise you'll end up moving backwards. Okay, so it's the turn of the blue character, so he's going to try and make things difficult for this yellow one here and put a wall in his way. And then let's roll the dice. We've got 4 and 5. So let's try and get this blue one out here. And he's got another 5, so let's see, so we'll move him in this direction. Okay, trying to get him closer to the board, closer to the center of the board. Okay, so that's all 4 players have had their turn, and now it goes back to the red character. So he is going to decide to really make things really difficult for this white one here, and he's going to box him in completely. Now what that means is that the white character won't be able to move out of there for the time being. We roll our dice, and we've got a 3 and 6, so let's see, let's go 3 this way. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that still gets him a bit closer, so we'll move 6 that way. Now, all is not lost for the white character. He won't be trapped in there forever because there is a finite number of walls that can be placed on the board, and once that number is reached, it cycles round again, and walls that have been previously placed will get moved elsewhere. So you know, he won't have to stay in there forever. The first wall, I think, which might have been the blue one that trapped him in, will be moved later in the game, which will potentially mean that he can get out. But he's got a white wall at his disposal, so he's going to just say, look, I'm not going to let you come down here. I'll block you. And then we've got 3 and 1. So let's see. Let's try and get another white character out here. So, no, 3 is the first roll, however. I don't get any choice about that, so instead we'll move this one. Yep. And then we'll move the white character down here by 1. So you can start to see how the gameplay works here. So it's really just a strategy of trying to maneuver your characters into the center of the board whilst trying to prevent your other players from getting their characters into the center of the board. So we'll see how much longer we can go to perhaps get somebody into the middle, just so you can see what that looks like. So we're the yellow character now. So let's see, what walls can we place? Let's put one here and roll the dice. Okay, so we've got a 2 and a 5. Let's see, move him 2 this way. Yep. And then let's go 5 this. Oh, actually, that's not going to work, is it? It's only 4. Oh, well, we'll have to release one of the other yellow characters in that case. So let's move this one out. Now, one of the things that can also happen in this game is you can actually send a character back to the start if you manage to land on them, and that actually works both for opponents and also yourself. So you have to be careful not to run your characters over the top of other characters, because if you do that, you'll send your own character back. Now I'm going to start. Now you can see down here. Look, I think it was previously yellow wall was in front of this white character, and now that's been moved. So that one will be free to move on his next go. I'm going to try and stop being quite so obstreperous to my fellow opponents here, and see if we can at least get one character into the center. So we've got 4 there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, let's move him 4 that way. Now we can't move him, unfortunately, into the middle yet, but we'll get this character out here. Okay, and gameplay continues to the red character. So let's see, let's pop a wall over here, and 4 and 5. Okay, let's see what we can do with that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, here we go. This is a good example. So my red character now, he's got 5 on the roll of the dice, which means if I send him this way, There you go. He's bounced that blue character back to the start again, which is obviously another form of strategy that you can employ to try and make things more difficult for your fellow players. So as the white characters go, and he's got a 1 and 3. So let's move this one down 1 and move him 3. Very close to the center now for the white character. So yellow is up next. We'll just pop a wall over here. And ooh, double 6. This isn't one of these games where that's necessarily the best for your character, but aha, let's do another. There we go. There we've sent the white character back. And now it is the chance for the second 6. Let's see what we can do with that. Maybe we'll release this one over here and bounce the blue one back. So that's really bad news for our dark blue character there, because he's now all 4 have been sent back to the beginning. So it's as if he was never in the game. So it is quite a sneaky game, I have to say. So let's see what we can do for the dark blue character now. We'll try and get one of his characters out again. There we go, 4 there. And he's got 5 remaining, so we'll do some payback. Bounce the yellow character back. Okay, and now we're up for red. Now let's see, with red we might just about be able to get him into the middle if we get a decent dice roll. So what we're aiming for is a 4. No, actually no, a 3 is good. A 3 is good. Oh, perfect. So we can now move the red character up here, and then with our remaining 2, there he is, and he's home. And you have to do that on an exact dice roll. So if we'd had 3 and 3, that would have just moved him to the other side of home. Unfortunately, he doesn't go home just by passing through the middle. He has to land exactly in the middle. Now, I think we're going to leave it there in terms of playing Gambit. I think you've probably got the idea of how the game works. So, it's actually a rather intriguing game. I've probably ranked it slightly harshly by bringing it in at 83. I think actually, as games go, it's actually got a lot going for it. It's very strategic. It's quite a malicious game actually, because of the facility that you have to block your fellow opponents with walls and send them back to the beginning and so on. Not too dissimilar from board games like Ludo, but I think it's got a little bit more in its favor than Ludo. It's a little bit more complex than that. I think the main reason, if I'm honest, that this game comes in at this level in the rankings is really because there isn't the facility to play against a computer. So if you are a solo gamer, and certainly in the early 80s when I was playing games on the micro, it was just me on my own. This sort of game, unfortunately, didn't have a lot of mileage, because unless you wanted to play against yourself, as I've sort of tried to do here, you couldn't really get a lot out of the game without having a fellow friend to play with, or sibling perhaps. And actually, it's a fairly slow game. It takes time to cycle through each move. And so I guess my main point really is that if it had the facility to play against the computer, I think this would come in lot more higher up in our rankings. But given that it is unfortunately effectively a board game recreated on a computer, and it does require other people to play with, it scores a little bit less as a result. But that doesn't take away from the game itself. I think it's still a pretty nifty game. All credit to the Oliver twins for putting this together back in the early 80s. And I think that's probably it for Gambit. So I hope you enjoyed watching that. I hope it gave you some explanation of the game as well. And join us next time for Game 82.